try and top your first movie. The audience is expecting more from the second one than the first, and if you do a good job with that, then, you know, they'll keep coming back. It's quite a challenge to do it these days because pretty much everything that you could dream up has been in one action movie or another.
I became involved with xXx 2 when Rob Cohen, the director of the first movie, approached me about writing the sequel. And the first thing he said to me, actually, that was most intriguing or compelling to me was that he didn't want it to be an action movie. He wanted it to be more of a thriller.
There's no doubt that the first screenplay I read was a Vin Diesel screenplay, and Darius Stone was a secondary character, a major one, but he was going to be the major sidekick for Vin's role. Then when the decision was made not to go that way, not to do that kind of sequel, you take that screenplay, and if you pull Vin out of it, what are you left with? Well, you're left with about 30% of a screenplay. The only thing that survived from that was the story element that there's a military coup going on in Washington and someone's got to save the day. Other than that, we had to go right back from square one and tear it all apart.
We sort of built it from there. He wanted it to be domestic. He wanted the villains to be American. He wanted it to feel as though it was about paranoia rather than about sort of going somewhere and blowing up a lot of buildings. He wanted it to feel contemporary in a way that I think the attitude and the trappings of the first movie did, but the plot didn't.
I like very much in broad strokes that there's basically an attempt to overthrow the government and the homeboys save the day. I mean, that's pretty cool. that's a fun thing to play out.
The last XXx, he could ski, surf, do all kinds of stunts.
Well, he's dead now, isn't he? So things are gonna be ran different around here.
In fact, we didn't so much try and move away from Vin. Once we decided that he wasn't in it, we killed him off, and then we went on with a new character. It was surprisingly easy to just deal with a new character and not to have any reference to what Vin's character used to do at all.
With Xander Cage, with Vin Diesel, you know, there isn't a whole lot of work in his backstory in the first movie, but there are certain things that you know you can't go into and certain things that were already established. And one of the things that was really exciting to me about Ice Cube coming onto the movie was the opportunity to create an entirely new backstory and a backstory that we could fold into the plot of the film. We created a lot of different versions of the Darius Stone character until we felt like we got it right. And until we felt like he could be a harder, more dangerous, more serious character. In addition to sort of it becoming a bit of a different genre, the movie changed tonally when Ice Cube was cast. Because we wanted it to be a little more on the ground. We wanted it to feel more realistic, more hardened.
The Darius I remember always liked to throw the first punch.
No speech, huh?
What I've tended to play on in his character in this movie is the more irreverent anti-hero, which is a kind of time-honored American tradition, really. I wasn't interested in Family Guy for Darius Stone. I'm more interested in a guy who's been in prison for something he didn't really belong there for, and coming out and having to go and work for his country again when he didn't really want to. That sets up the kind of Dirty Dozen type scenario, which has always worked well in these movies. You're anti-authoritarian, you're anti-establishment, but you end up doing the right thing for the good of the country and for, you know, for mom and apple pie. It's a fine line you got to walk with that.
I like Lee. Lee, you know, he's totally competent, you know. I work with a lot of first-time directors, so it was cool to be in a movie where you knew that part was covered. I didn't have to worry about putting on my producer's hat or, you know, none of that. I just had to show up and follow his direction. And you know, I describe Lee as an elephant hunter. You know, with everything that comes with that. You know, all he cares about is getting that elephant. You know, and everybody, if he has to scream and yell to people on the way to get it done, we're gonna track this elephant and we're gonna get it. So that's the kind of director he is. He's a man on a mission, and you know, either with him or against him on that.
Roll camera and action! Got it.
The biggest challenge on a picture like this is actually getting it all made and getting it made on time. This was shot in 83, 84 days. It really should have been a 100-day movie. But I work very fast, and I pretty much cut my pictures in my head and before I shoot them.
Good, now we got it. Good, excellent. Okay, check it.
I don't shoot large amounts of material to be thrown away at the end of the film. Sometimes I'm my own worst enemy because I always find I have to go back and reshoot something, but I find I can move much faster having made definitive decisions right up front. It saves a lot of money, it saves a lot of time.
Very nice, and cut it. Yeah, okay, that's the good thing. When you go out, Keith, just go that side of camera, yes.
Very different than doing a small indie film. You know, I've done a couple of those too. And I mean, it's awesome, it's nice because you're on the set with like just hundreds of people that all have these specific jobs and they're all just milling about, you know, paying attention to what they have to do. It's interesting because there's so much money that goes into something like this.
My favorite part of the movie really was working with Lee. I didn't know, you know, obviously I didn't know him or didn't know what to expect and didn't know what that was going to be kind of like going on a huge, big budget movie. I didn't know if, you know, the acting stuff was going to be pushed aside, but he was really into it and he was letting me try stuff and letting me do stuff all the time. And getting to do scenes, you know, again, that I've never gotten to do where I work a room that, you know, I'm working with my team and I'm telling them what to do. I mean, that's stuff that, you know, I don't get a chance to do a lot of times. And he was right there backing me up on all that stuff.
I tend to always concentrate on performance, story. Is the story solid? Are we still telling the same story? And are these performances solid? It's not that I don't care about explosions and special effects and stunts and all that. Of course I do. But if you have all the rest of it together, all of that stuff will fall into place accordingly. And so, you know, my thing with these movies is always make sure they make sense. I can't make a movie that doesn't make sense and has giant holes and plot holes in it that people just go, that's really stupid. Why did that person do that? The action and the stuff that people feel that might be the hardest to shoot is not. That's just really dogged hard work. You just got to get in there. It's like breaking concrete with a sledgehammer. You just got to get at it and chip away at it bit by bit.
Well, one of the great things that I like about Lee is he has a terrific film culture. He knows world cinema. He knows Hollywood. It just makes his perspective on how to make a picture like this a little more inventive.
Good, and cut it.
Falling behind on these movies is fairly brutal because there's a lot of money at stake. If it costs $250,000 a day to shoot a picture like this, the reasons for you falling behind should be fairly explainable. Sometimes they can. It's either weather, act of God, an actor is sick, things like this. Everyone understands that, nobody minds. Sometimes if you budget a sequence for a week, an action sequence, and it takes 2 weeks, we even all understand that. It's a brilliant sequence. Let's not devalue it by being cheap and just trying to finish it in a week. Let's take the 2 weeks and finish it. But if you fall behind because you like to have cups of tea and you like to take your time and wait for the clouds to clear, those things are going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. And on these movies, you have to pretty much adhere to the sort of schedule you've made for yourself. And if you do, you get a lot more latitude to get the things done that you want to do.
I think one of the big challenges is not only to identify what your function in the story is, but also do it in a very present way that's sort of elegant and serves the story. To give me some ideas as we started to work with the script and to make this character special for me, I did run out and start boning up on some of Donald Rumsfeld's speeches.
It's a brave decision to change your lead actor every time you go out with a new one of these movies. I thought the only way we can protect that is to make the movie the thing that works. You make Cube a movie star of the same order because you've made a good movie and he's in it. But my insurance policy for that was really to support him with a lot of really good people. 2 people were already back in, Michael Roof playing Toby Lee Shavers and Sam Jackson. We beefed up Sam's part substantially. It was much less than it is now, and I argued to really make it far more substantial. because people like Sam. They like him a lot. It wasn't that he was undervalued in the first movie, but in this one we thought we wanted to tie Ice Cube and Sam Jackson's characters really tightly together.
I've been dreaming to work with Sam for a long time. He's one of my favorite actors out here. He's been doing it for a long time. He can turn into any character, you know, play any role. Getting a chance to work with him, seeing how he do his thing, seeing how laid back, relaxed, he's just a pro.
It's really nice to finally actually work with him and see how his process has evolved and where he's come. And he has a lot of good ideas. He brings a specific kind of energy to the scenes we're in together, and it works very well for me to actually do things with him. I wish we had more things to do.
We thought with this type of firepower, with Willem on one side, Sam on the other, and Cube in the middle, you really had something going for it. Then the other characters were fantastic. Peter as the president and Nona as his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend. They're very, very good actors, and there's no weaknesses in any of these areas. Everyone was there to support Cube's character.
My character, she's just really sexy. She's very proud. She's very confident. And, you know, if something gets to her, she's not going to let you know. The fact that she was very powerful. And at the same time, usually I have to play someone who's powerful and vulnerable, and I didn't have to be vulnerable in this movie. And I've never done anything like this before, so he's got me in these Armani suits, and yeah.
Something, you know what I mean?
What I needed was a designer who's not only a cutting-edge designer, but someone who knew very well the interface between the 3D world and the real world that we were doing. Someone who could build sets, but also design portions of sets, little pieces, knowing that the rest was going to be green screens. And I knew that Gavin had been doing a lot of that, and he was very, very up to date with a whole lot of modern techniques.
And the initial feeling was really to try and take it away from the sort of X-generation extreme sports world and take it slightly more into a more sort of stylish adult thriller. So it sort of moved it into that world. And the story was a little bit more orientated that way too, being basically an American location and around the government. It sort of lent itself more to that sort of look.
When we're deciding on the look of the film, I usually have a very close relationship with production designer, and especially with Gavin, because this is our second movie together. From the very beginning of pre-production, we usually start talking about, you know, overall look of the movie, the colors, the feelings of the scenes. You always, in these movies, you always spice it up, because otherwise it gets boring.
We were definitely pretty monochrome in the colour scheme in the first film on xXx with Rob Cohen, and I think the fact that we were going more stylish and we're in a slightly more contemporary world and a world of America that the audience knew, certainly we wanted to make it more colourful and more striking, and David Tattersall, the DP, helped a lot with that, did some very interesting lighting in some of the sets, and we got a great sort of movement, as far as I can see, between different environments and different sets and very different looks. In the first film, xXx wasn't necessarily a centre, it was the NSA, and he was working for the NSA. In the storyline, it evolved that there would be a separate underground bunker that had specifically been built that was specifically for the xXx unit. Obviously, one of the challenges was to make sure we gave it a very different look, albeit modern and high-tech, than the first one. The new set we made in a very organic shape, lots of curved circles, curved corridors, curved walls, just so you had an instant identity difference between the two.
I really enjoy working with actors. I really enjoy how they're going to play the character, helping them get there. With Ice Cube, we consciously didn't go for the hip-hop look because he was in a prison for 9 years, and he wanted to make him actually, in a way, stand out and be his own person in the movie, not belong to either Washington or hip-hop or any of that. He'd be just really very, special and very simple, almost Steve McQueen-ish kind of a character. It's not about the clothes, so that his persona comes out rather than him being identified with the clothes. As always, you have to work with, actor's personality. When you come to exhibit, he has such a strong personality that he doesn't need much. And there is a reason why he always wears sort of a black t-shirt and a black pants or something very simple, because it just would be too much with the way who he is, with his voice and laugh and everything. Sunny was sort of a femme fatale in the movie. Obviously, she is a part of the Washington elite, so we had to stay slightly conservative with suits and all of that. However, what we decided in talking to Lee is to use color. But subconsciously, the girl in white is usually a good girl. And then the turning point was the gala, which she was wearing a green dress. The dress was, of course, a little bit sexier than probably in reality what she would wear, but it was kind of the point.
It was so funny because I had a green dress, a green boa, a green purse, and a green Jaguar. I don't think it was planned, and I don't know if anybody will notice, but I think we decided on the dress color before we realized that the Jaguar was green too, so I'm kind of like Kermit with blonde hair driving around.
Well, Daddy's little girl.
And then at the end, we went with black, but it was not just because she's turning into a black girl. But it kind of made sense because she's, on the ship with the guys. She's wearing, of course, pants and a jacket. It was also for the practical reason, what else would she be wearing? And at the same time, she needed to still look great and appealing to all of the audience.
There's a lot of cars and a lot of vehicles in this movie, and perhaps never enough.
We're rolling. Sound speed.
Take 3 at camera mark.
And action.
It felt to me that Darius and his character was the kind of guy, for what he was going to go up against, was not going to want a car just for the shameless reason of having a cool car in an action movie. A car can only be capable of so much, and he needs to get some things done with it. So if he's this kind of guy capable of breaking things down and smashing things and shooting things up, he's much more suited to having a truck.
And cut it. Very good. Turn that one right.
We have a guy that's got to break his way through a variety of military roadblocks and bust through warehouse doors and everything else to get to the president. And that GTO has about a 3-inch ground clearance, so it really wasn't the car for the job. Also, during the course of the movie, if they'd been driving the GTO, it would have been too easy to identify them.
The problem with it became, of course, it didn't become an action vehicle. The minute you start taking a truck and elevating it into the air, you're giving it stability problems. It has no low center of gravity. It can't go screaming around corners. It's going to roll over. It couldn't even skid properly. You've got all sorts of problems with it being able to behave like an action vehicle. So it's the one thing that cursed us on the making of it, is that we couldn't actually have it being very active. We had the guys travel through and smash through barricades and have it fully sort of Kevlar armored and taking a lot of gunfire. But in the end, we have it hit by a tank and blown to pieces. And we thought, well, okay, that's good. Let's get rid of the truck.
Shelby Cobra prototype, 600 horses, 10,000 RPM. Only 3 off the rack.
The Shelby Cobra prototype, which is actually an existing prototype, which we found that Carroll Shelby had made. Arnie worked really hard to get Steve Saline to build 3 Cobras for us. It's based on the old Shelby, the 60s Cobra, but it's got a completely remodeled body, of course, and they were very much production models, effectively. I think the sound effects guys took them out on the track somewhere and wound them up to 200 miles an hour. But the only caveat was that we weren't allowed to drive them on the road, they weren't allowed to be seen by anyone, and they had to be transported on car transporters with covers on them so no one could see these things. And fair enough too, it's a one-off car and it was doing a bunch of auto shows around America. At the end of the movie, we had to destroy all the body parts and all the molds, which is a great shame, but you can't have people running around in kit cars of a prototype. We had great fun with those and had great fun trashing it too, so even though in the end it's a digital trashed car that goes flying through the air. But I remember saying to the writer, I said, put a couple of guys in the back of this Black Hawk so that when this car blows up and goes flying along the tracks at 200 miles an hour, these guys could say, isn't that the new Shelby Cobra? Yeah, you know, just one of those admiring things to go, wow, man, look like it's the new Cobra, you know. But anyway, we took those guys out because they were just, you know, they were just going to be sitting in the back doing nothing, and I couldn't just put them there just to have a cool line about a destroyed Shelby.
Classic still a classic.
And the different cars over the span of the film all have different meaning in some form. I really wanted the final car, I wanted that car to be tied to his relationship to Lola. It was important that her handing him the car told the audience that she now trusted him, that she was now willing to sacrifice for him, that she loved him again. So that car needed to be a really special car, a really cool car, a really expensive car, and it needed to feel like something we had not yet seen in the franchise.